Vote 2010, the U.S. Senate race in the state of Kentucky. I'm Gene Burke.
And I'm Lauren Hansen. Thanks for joining us. And Dr. Paul, your opening statement, please.
I'm Rand Paul. I'm a father of 3. I've been married for 19 years, and I'm a physician, not a career politician. I think the career politicians really have been destroying our country for quite some time now. I think the pork barrel spending is out of control. And I, like many people in the Tea Party, think there's some bipartisan blame to go around. I think when Republicans have been in charge, they've allowed the deficit to rise. And now the Democrats are in charge, and it's rising 3 times faster. I think we need reform. I think we need term limits. I think we need to force them to balance the budget by law. Look at what Senator Bunning said the other day. He stood up for pay-as-you-go, and no one defended him. We need to have some new rules, term limits, balanced budget, end the earmarks. We need to get our government back from the career politicians, and I will have the courage to stand up and do that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Dr. Paul, what would you change about the health care law?
I think we need to repeal it, so I do agree with repealing it. I think we as Republicans, though, need to have a vision for how we change health care because people are bothered by certain things. People are bothered by pre-existing conditions. People have a heart attack. They're worried that their rates will be tripled or they'll be cut off. People are worried about portability. So what I've been arguing for as I go around the state over the last year is let's make health insurance more like term life insurance. If you have a medical problem and you have term life insurance, your term life insurance doesn't change for one simple reason. You have a many-year policy. Your health insurance policy is 1 year. So when it expires, your rates can double and triple. But we took the wrong approach here with the health care reform. We said instead of bringing more competition and more free market to health care, we ended up adding more government to health care, and I think that's a big mistake. So I think we do have a vision as Republicans how we reform it, but what we need to do is not add more government to this. Interstate commerce and competition for health care will help. I think there are a lot of things we can do to bring competition. There are 2 things I do in my practice that people pay cash for. One is contact lenses, and our contact lenses compete with Walmart. The other is LASIK surgery. It's much more expensive, but because people pay cash, the competition does work. So we need more price competition. We need more health savings account. There are a lot of ways that private marketplace can enter into it and not have more government.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Paul.
And Dr. Paul, our next question goes to you. You have images of September 11th in some of your ads. Do you fear any backlash? And tell me a little bit about why you decided to use those.
We chose to use the images of 9/11 because we felt like the attacks of another candidate in the race were very personal. And when you attack someone's patriotism, when you attack someone's integrity, I think you have to respond in a very personal way. We would have never chosen to do that. In fact, I've challenged my opponent not to run any negative ads if he'll stop. But when it gets really personal like that, I think you have to respond. He implied that I think it was justified that we were attacked on 9/11, and that is insulting, and that is not my position, and there is no justification for America being attacked whatsoever. And so we felt the need to respond in a personal way and to say that it is intellectually dishonest to take words out of context and draw a conclusion that wasn't intended by the speaker. So I don't know that there will be a backlash. I'm not sure there'll be any more 9/11 discussion, but that's really up to my opponent whether or not he wants to raise the level on this debate or whether he wants to continue down that road.
And Mr. Grayson, I believe he was referring to you in that. Would you like a minute to respond?
Sure.
And we ask that the audience please be quiet while the candidates are responding.
There was nothing personal about our ad. All we did was take videos of Dr. Paul's statements on which several occasions where he has indicated that, to quote one of them, part of what happened on 9/11 was our fault. It's our policy. We were over there, so then now we're over here. It's 3 different occasions he said essentially the same thing. So I find it actually intellectually dishonest that he would say something like that and then lie about the fact that we're taking something out of context when it's pretty clear that when you say it on multiple occasions, it's not a misstatement. It's his actual position. I had a friend who died in the World Trade Center attacks, And that's why it bothered me when he said that, because I'm absolutely disagree with him. It's not personal, it's just a disagreement on issues. I don't think that our foreign policy had anything to do with 9/11. They hate us, they attacked us, and on several different occasions he's said the opposite. We just have a disagreement on policy, that's all.
And Dr. Paul, would you like to take a minute to respond to that?
Yeah, because he implies that I think that it was justified that we were attacked. That's never been any conclusion that any rational person in America has, to say that it was justified that we were attacked. You do this on every issue, Trey, one after another. You say that I want to drop off the detainees in Afghanistan, but you leave out comma if they're found innocent. I mean, that's just dishonest, Trey, and you know it. There's hundreds of people being held down there. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the mastermind of 9/11, he implies I want to send him home to the battlefield. That's untrue, it's dishonest, and it's shameful, and you ought to quit it, Trey. You should be better than that.
And to make it fair and honest, if you'd like to take a couple of seconds to respond, and then we'll call it quits after this.
Rand and I just have a disagreement. We take statements that he's said on video, put them in ads, and let people decide for themselves. It obviously bothers him because he knows the truth is that those views are outside of the mainstream of Kentucky, and it hurts his election chances. And so he, like a typical politician, changes his views to fit the situation. And it's, we could go on and on about this all night. I hope we could go into some other issues and just go check out the videos for yourselves. Watch them in full context and see who's being intellectually dishonest and see who has the positions that are outside of the mainstream of Kentucky. I stand by what we've said. I stand against what he has said, and I'll let the people decide.
All right, and we'll move on from here.
Now on to our next question. Nuclear weapons and international relations. We'll begin with Rand Paul. Do you think the Senate should ratify the nuclear arms treaty President Obama and Russian President Medvedev recently signed? And if you do, why? If you don't, why not?
Right. I think we need to be very careful about what we do with nuclear arms as far as what treaties we sign and also what signals we give to the world. I was taken aback and am opposed to defining and announcing what our final strategy is on nuclear weapons. Recently President Obama said that there are certain times he would and certain times he wouldn't. I think a certain amount of defense is an unknown strategy that needs to be unknown and unstated, in the sense that you need to have that as a strategy of deterrence. During the Cold War, we never said we wouldn't use nuclear weapons against the Soviet Union, and there was a certain mutual assured deterrence, that went along with that, and I think that was good. Now, as far as whether or not we can reduce nuclear arsenals, we have reduced nuclear arsenals under Reagan, we reduced nuclear arsenals, and under Bush. And so looking at the actual numbers of whether or not we can reduce our nuclear arsenals, I think that's something that can be debated and should be debated. But I don't have a conclusion at this moment whether or not we absolutely should go along with the nuclear reduction.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Their number one concern, and the Wall Street Journal today said this ought to be our number one national security concern, and it's something I'm really concerned about, is Iran having a nuclear weapon. That's an existential threat to Israel. It's an existential threat to America, because all it takes is one of those bombs in a suitcase brought over across the ocean to do a lot of devastation in our country. And so it's something that I'm pretty concerned about. And unfortunately, one of my opponents said that Iran having a single nuclear weapon is not a threat to America's national security. I couldn't disagree more. It's a huge threat to our national security. And again, it's just something we disagree on.
We'll be back in a couple of minutes.